All right, here comes a conversation with Camela Thompson, badass marketing leader, published author, podcaster, artist, road warrior, dog lover. This is all about the marketing do's and don'ts for 2023. She's got her finger on the pulse of what's going on. We're going to hear from her about that, where to double down, where to stop wasting your resources, and some surprising insights on well-established business practices from other business functions that have come to apply to B2B marketing in 2023. Let's go. So what prompted me to actually get this conversation recorded was I could tell that you have been really keeping finger on the pulse, have great sense of the insights for like what is going on in 2023. I mean, every year people would say things have changed a lot in marketing, but I've been looking at things going, damn, things are changing a lot in B2B marketing. And I would love to bring in your voice to help people who do what I do, people do what you do, other folks who are in the B2B marketing space understand what is going down. So just kind of get started at the high level, going into 2023, just kind of curious on sort of the major ups and downs. What is becoming more in focus and what is falling out of focus for businesses going into 2023?
I think I'm going to not bury the lead and start with ripping the tablecloth off the table, the magic trick.
Okay.
So what we're really seeing is that our buyer landscape is changing. So we're used to working with buyer committees. We're used to dealing with a champion with some buying power who can kind of overrule people. And if you find that person, that works really well. That's changing. So we're dealing with a different generation of decision makers, people who weren't like me. They didn't get the chance to go to the mall, talk to the salesperson, see what other people liked. They research all their stuff online, and that's how they buy shoes. And guess what? That's how they want to buy software.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing a lot of B2B organizations really slow to adjust their approach and growth. So traditionally, and I've been in a lot of startups, the mentality has always been, what's my quota? Or what's my goal? I'm going to divide that by sales quota, and that's how many people I'm going to hire so I hit my number.
Sure.
And marketing was brought in much later on. Marketing leadership could be viewed as fractional as late as mid-series A to series B.
Yeah, sure.
And then early on, it's like, let's go to Squarespace, Wix. Love those companies, not knocking them at all, but let's spin up a website and not put a lot of thought into it. You just can't do that anymore.
Right.
So I think we're going to see a big shift in how companies are prioritizing what they invest in terms of their go-to-market strategy. They're going to have to. You have to have a very strong digital presence the minute you start talking to prospects and trying to sell your product.
So tell me about how that's playing out. Is it playing out differently at all between B2B companies that are in like the super high ticket, right? So a new contract is $1 million, $3 million, $5 million, and B2B companies who, they sell parts for industrial equipment, lower ticket items. What's that looking like?
It's different to a degree. I think the higher tech, the faster the change is what I've seen a lot of times with the industrial play. They're still finding a lot of success putting stuff on Facebook. Like they never thought people would talk about buying equipment and what kind of options to make or that are available on Facebook. That's where people are having conversations and they're having to learn and adjust and move there.
Sure.
I mean, it's not unique to the high tech space that more and more buyers are coming from the millennial, even generation, what is it, Z now?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, more and more of those people are going to be coming along, and their mentality in the buying process tends, in general, of course, to be very different than, say, baby boomers who are extremely independent and wanted to have autonomy.
Now, as you're talking about this shift, it sounds like the thing that I call the horizon of responsibility, where marketing handles leads to a certain point, and then they become the responsibility of sales. That horizon is moving across the landscape in some way. So I want to understand, tell me about where it's moving, where you expect it to land, and how the roles of marketing and sales are shifting in accordance to that shift.
Oh my gosh. So we've already seen this so much in tech. And I think of taking two paint colors, and now we've shaken the tin so much that they're blended into a single color. Really,
got it. Yep.
The line between marketing and sales is so blurry. I'm at a small startup, or Caliber Mind's a small startup. I helped them with laying out their marketing foundation, but I was also involved in sales enablement and sales engineering and a lot of other things. And while that's not necessarily normal or ideal for everyone, it worked for us.
Yeah.
And it really highlighted to me how much marketing sales is doing now, because the old way of doing cold outbound is far less effective for a variety of reasons. So like we have a bunch of email providers locking down on how many sends you can do. They're very conscientious about bounce rate. All of these things are making it hypercritical for marketing to pay attention to what sales is doing, because if they're allowing them to use these outbound tools en masse, your domain deliverability is destroyed.
Totally.
So the two have to be in lockstep. You have to be singing the same message all the way through to customer success. And customer success, reviews, testimonials, case studies, that is so elemental, essential, vital to the success early on in marketing. Like, there's no line now. It's just this big circle.
It really is. So, I mean, but these, in many instances, or almost every, you find that they're, especially as organizations mature, there seems to be an increasing sort of silo effect around sales, around marketing, right? They're just these isolated kingdoms. What you're talking about requires, you got to break through these walls. Do you have, so first of all, your thoughts on what are the challenges that these organizations are going to face as they attempt to do that? And what guidance do you have, right, for them to be effective at breaking through these walls? Because it sounds like this is, if you don't do this, I mean, you're just not going to last long. So this is a must do. So how do we deal with the challenges, and what are some of your suggestions on succeeding?
I mean, there's good news and bad news. My view is a bad quarter is actually a good thing, because people get uncomfortable enough to consider change.
Okay.
There are a lot of uncomfortable people right now. So I think it behooves marketers to step into this, accept the challenge, and start learning more about data and how the business thinks about numbers and what they prioritize, so that you're speaking the same language they are. And I think a lot of marketers fall short there. Not all, but quite a few aren't comfortable with numbers. And I could leave one thing. You do not need to be good at math to read a chart and interpret it and kick butt at an executive meeting. It's pattern matching.
Yeah.
We do that when we don't find our favorite brand of peanut butter and we try to figure out what other flavor to get. It's like, it's not science. So learning the language, being able to read things as they change. You have data that's earlier than anyone else in the organization. You have the first engagements with your brand, and you can watch how those are trending. It's so powerful when you learn how to harness it and can speak to the rest of the business. Like, I'm very fortunate to have access to these tools and be able to point out when different personas are interacting with our brand and how to change our content strategy accordingly.
Yes.
But this can be done much less difficultly by listening to intro calls and discovery calls and demos and hearing the language that your prospects are using, and then using that for guidance in your marketing and then further down the sales. So long story short, getting more data literate, figuring out the language of the rest of the business, and then really stepping up and becoming a visionary leader in terms of where the market's heading and how you have to adapt.
Okay.
But this also requires people to meet them halfway, right?
Oh, sure. I totally agree with that. I mean, whether fortunately or unfortunately, perhaps it's fortunate because it's so reliable, but unfortunate because we'd like to think that different things cause changes in business. But oftentimes the way it works is change happens based on where the money flows, right? So as we look at the shifts that you're talking about, shifts in market behavior, buyer behavior, and how the relationship between sales and marketing needs to adapt, et cetera, to the degree that it is going to end up being about where the money flows, and companies are looking to have their money flow in ways that are aligned with your guidance and the upcoming changes and current shifts, whatever, like what do you want them to know about how they should look to have their money flowing?
So if we look at the companies that have the most success in tech right now, and tech is where people are really struggling, especially B2B tech.
Yeah.
The companies that are having a lot of success are the ones that have a very frictionless buyer process, product-led growth. Maybe it's a free trial first. Maybe they're signing up on their own, but they don't really have to interact with anyone. Product's intuitive. Those companies are doing really, really well. So, I mean, Zoom did a really great job of this, allowing people to sign up one-off. Maybe they didn't like using Teams.
Sure.
And pretty soon the organization kind of has to go with where the majority of their employees want to go.
Yeah.
That is so smart. So if we look at that and we look at the research that says 43% of buyers don't want to talk to salespeople in a B2B buying process, we're seeing the people who are really rigid about sales-led growth struggling right now.
I get you.
So as we watch where the market's going, I think a lot of people are going to try to move in that direction naturally.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of board members, leaders haven't quite read the tea leaves yet. It's there.
Okay, so let me try to sum it up. As I'm a leader in a business, taking clues from some of these success stories you talked about, I do want to focus on creating the content and supportive elements for the client journey to be self-driven, right? So I'm thinking that's video, that's print content, that's other client journey related stuff, and making it possible for them to self-serve to whatever degree I can.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So even if you have a complex product that requires a salesperson because people are going to have a lot of technical questions and they need to go through the process, you should still structure your website for the researching buyer and make it really simple for them to understand the navigation, where they can find things. So I used to structure my website like other B2B companies. And we'd have cutesy labels for the different things that everybody's using, like library instead of blog, solutions instead of product. And then people are like, are you a product or service?
I get you. Yeah.
I've completely changed all of that. So it's really clear. Here's our products.
Yes.
Here's the customer stories. Here are additional resources like your knowledge base. Like all of that can be used in the front end and not just after they buy.
Okay.
And then making core elements that are really essential as part of your product, just front and center.
Okay.
And then also focusing on what your key persona cares about the most and what problems they're trying to solve instead of your features. Yeah.
So that's the next thing I wanted to ask you. Now you've got somebody who's like, okay, I get it. And now I'm committed. I want to put the resources into creating the content and support structure that allows a sort of a self-guided process to unfold for a buyer who's oriented in that way. My next question is, well, how do I know what information they're going to need? How do I know what problems they're trying to solve for? What's my way to make sure that the content I'm creating is the content that's going to address that need?
The simplest answer is usually the right one. And I'm going to say, just ask them.
Yeah, sure. That's kind of what I figured you'd say. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like I said, I was lucky. I spent a lot of time as a sales engineer. We had a really complicated product. It was hard to get across what the different personas were looking for. What I did with my sales organization and my marketers is what I call game tape review. So I was watching Hard Knocks.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah.
And I'm watching these people go through the tape. And I'm like, why are we not doing this in a business format? So I started taking clips of just the prospect speaking. And then I would prompt people to say, which product are they talking about? And why?
Oh, cool.
Like the real thing that they should be doing is asking more clarifying questions, but building that muscle and getting them to pick out keywords benefits your marketing team because their SEO is going to improve a ton. And then your sales team starts to build that muscle where they recognize things a lot sooner and are able to ask better questions faster.
Oh, that's a really cool idea.
Yeah, I got to thank my husband and Hard Knocks.
Okay, sure. All right. So we've been talking a bit about content. I'm going to shift that in a second, but I can't leave content in Q1 of 2023 without asking you about chatbots, ChatGPT, et cetera. Tell me about your sense of, and it goes beyond that. We've got a lot of AIs now out creating a huge buzz. What's going on? Is this going to be a big impact? Is this changing landscape? Big deal, not a big deal? Give me your thoughts.
It's a big deal.
Okay.
But it has to be used intelligently, and it is not yet a replacement for skilled talent.
Okay.
So I've played around with ChatGPT. What I've noticed is, oh my gosh, it sounds just like me and stuff I've written in the past. How does it do that? But also, if you read it long enough, it starts to really get repetitive and go over the same thing over and over again. So the other thing you have to consider is they own the copyright to what they produce. And I'm not saying they're going to turn into like one of those, photography places that becomes litigious. We won't name names. But they could. So, just a few things of caution, like ChatGPT is not a replacement for the subject matter experts you already have access to in your organization.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Or thought followership. So your strategy of connecting with the industry's top experts, you can't, ChatGPT will never surpass that.
Totally.
Ever.
Yeah.
So does it have a time and place? Absolutely. It's great for even editing. But just keep in mind that what you pour in there, you don't necessarily retain the rights to, and that's kind of important.
Okay, I dig that. Great answer there. So I want to ask it also from the perspective of this self-guided journey buyer person and the personas that brands are trying to reach. So my sense is that chat technology or generative text technologies are going to bring us into this tidal wave of content. And it's like, okay, well, I appreciate that there's a lot more content out there, but now it's becoming more difficult to find that content which has genuine insights, significant, like disruptive thought, etc. How do you think this is going to impact the consumer of content?
Oh man. So I'm a published fiction author.
Okay.
So are a million other people every year.
Okay. Yeah.
Because there's no barrier to entry.
I see.
So the quality is just not great for the most part. And it's very hard to sift through all of the sand to find a few nuggets of gold.
Exactly. Yes.
So I think we're going to get a lot of marketers who are looking for a cheaper way to fill out their content. And it's not going to go well for them, especially younger, newer companies who are trying to find the cheap way to do something. Because when you're a smaller, newer company, you can't rely on SEO, especially if you're dealing in a market with incumbents who've been there a long time. You have to focus on producing the content that people want to read.
Yeah. Oh, sure. I get you. And that's different from what the bots are doing, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. How do you do that?
How do you do that? Well, by listening to you and following your strategy on thought followership
stop it.
Well, it was really good, but really it comes back to the simple, ask your customers, ask the prospects, talk to them. If you don't have access to a really awesome research agency that can go out and interview a bunch of people for you, start listening to your sales calls.
I get you. All right. So speaking of getting intelligence in the marketplace, you have just always had a sense of what's going on. How do you do that? What are the sources that you follow? What's bringing you your intel? You've always got great intel.
I got to credit the Revenue Marketing Report podcast that I was a host of for a couple of years for keeping me on top of this stuff because, guests such as yourself, there's just a lot of great nuggets of content. And then bringing that all together and being able to sift through it and I feel like I'm at a competitive advantage and a real benefit for having met all of these people. But because we were so selective in who we invited in the show, it also created the kind of content that I've been talking about, which is stuff people want to listen to. So I just feel really fortunate.
And any conferences or trade journals?
Yes. So I do stay on top of things like B2B MX, Inbound. There's a good content conference coming up. I know you're going to be a speaker there. It's slipping my mind.
Well, I'm going to B2B marketing. I'm not speaking there.
I thought for sure that they would have thought followership.
I would love that. I did the exchange, but the B2B marketing in Scottsdale, I'm just attending.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll
But
talk to
yes.
him. Sure. Great. I'll talk to him. Who's crushing it? Like you have seen people, you talked about there's a lot of problems and there's going to be some pain as these organizations adapt. You mentioned some in the B2B space. I wonder if you can give me a thought on like who to look at that's in high ticket and sort of mid-market B2B offerings. Crushing it.
You know, like Scratchpad and Dooley are the first to jump to mind. Chili Piper used to, I'm not seeing it as much. PandaDoc used to, I'm not seeing it as much. But what I'm noticing is the brands I really enjoy, purchase from, follow, have really strong individual content creators that use a lot of humor and just really understand what I'm struggling with as a marketer. And I think that's a trend.
Okay, I dig that. So I want to also kind of make sure we're delineating content we've spoken about kind of broadly. And, we did talk about chat because that's important, but chat is a text thing. Give me your thoughts between, written content, large articles, infographics, video, podcasting. Like, wow, there's a lot of places that people could be spending time and effort, and money. Any specific guidance into 2023? Do it all and see what happens, right?
Well, kind of. Actually, that's pretty close to what.
Yeah.
So, when I was running the podcast, we also did video, and then we would do mic drop snippets, and then that would go across several channels.
Yep.
People don't typically have the time or inclination to consume long form content.
Right.
I will download studies for the stats on occasion, but really, if you can give me the TLDR in a very short, that's too long, didn't read, in a very short video format, I'm probably going to consume that. So, and I'm becoming a fan of TikTok. I know I shouldn't be, but.
I'm a TikTok. I mean, I'm a fan of TikTok. At the same time, I had to take it off my phone.
Yeah, it's kind of scary, but at the same time, it's the kind of entertainment that I love. So
sure. And it's becoming sort of like, it's interesting. It's like chicken and egg question, the attention span thing. Is it because that's our attention span, or is that the thing that's creating our attention span?
I think we suck at paying attention anyway. I'm just going to.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I had a session. I mean, I was using TikTok pretty regularly. It's entertaining, like little reels, like, or those little, like, just the nasal puffs of amusement.
Yep.
And I don't think it was more than 20, 25 minutes. I was just, flipping the infinite scroll. But there was just something drastic about the shift that happened as my eyes came from the screen to my physical reality. Was just like, oh, this is all still here.
Yeah, it is scary.
It was like, I just recognized how fully captured I had become by this sort of exercise of flipping through these reels.
Yeah. And
it was just having witness to the magnitude of the shift. I was like, well, okay, that's not a place. No, that's really strong. And I need to step away from something that's strong.
Yeah, it's, you're absolutely right. It's easy to burn an hour plus. So it's like anything, moderation is absolutely key. And I'm glad that we have interests that span outside of that.
Yeah, keep
traveling
it up,
in
right?
our RVs and hiking and nature and all that stuff's really good too.
Yeah, let's hopefully keep all that up. Okay, so is you mentioned Facebook in the B2B space. You just were talking about TikTok. Is TikTok playing a role in B2B?
Oh yeah.
Tell me.
Humor-based videos. So we've seen a few players out there just really knock it out of the park.
Oh yeah.
And I think there's definitely a place for that. So why not?
So do you have to be, I mean, some of the organizations that I support, they're targeting, well, less than 1,000 logos for sure. Some of them even just like a few hundred, 300, 400 total addressable market. Is that going to work? Or do we need to be in sort of more of the down market, larger outreach sort of situation? What does that look like?
Well, it's like whenever you go to a downturn, what didn't work well before works worse.
Okay,
so if I mean, it's the same as it's always been. We have to figure out where our buyers are and
Yep.
then target that. So if they're not of the TikTok generation, don't waste your time there. Go to Reddit.
Shoot.
Or one of the other places.
Oh, go to Reddit, man. That just sounds like, I mean, it's almost like you just said, okay, boomer. All right. So I know we love our hot extractable mic drop clips here. 2023, I want you to give me the one thing to stop doing and the one thing to start doing.
I need a minute.
Take your minute. No, I want this to be the hot drop. So like, take your time on thinking this through. Because I know there's a lot of things to probably stop doing. And I could speak to some of that stuff myself, but I want to hear this from you. And then, I mean, you've already given some thoughts on start, but like, give me the number one. I'm going to go back to the office on Monday. I just finished this podcast. Here's what I got to stop doing. Here's what I got to start doing.
So there's a couple stop doing. Can I do two?
I'll allow it.
Okay. Stop marketing by gut.
Oh.
Maybe I just end there. That was a good one.
That's solid, but I need to know what it means.
Learn how to use data and speak the language of the rest of the business.
Okay,
so there's your stop and start in one. So,
okay, yeah.
You know, like marketers love testing things out, and that is fantastic. But you're not running a true scientific test if you're not also looking at the results and figuring out what you should and shouldn't repeat. So stop doing that.
Amen. That's happening a lot.
I know.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I was having a conversation. I recorded a conversation with Rich Waller. He's the head of healthcare for the Modern Data Company. And he was talking about their product development process, right? Really putting a lot of rigor around it. As you were talking about, ask, right? Ask the people. What do they want to know? How do you support their client journey? You ask. And he was on the product development side. Go to their office, sit down with them, learn their problems, figure out what their challenges are, right? Solve their actual problems. So, I mean, we've been doing this in product development for a long time, but like using the data and direct conversations, especially in the B2B space where it's high ticket, there's not enough people to get it wrong. So get it right and make sure that you've asked them directly what it is that it looks like to get it right. So I really appreciate that guidance. It's funny how, these processes have been in play in certain areas of business for so long, and they're so familiar, so recognized, so of course. And then, we talk about bringing it into something like marketing, like, well, how novel is that? It's like, oh my God, that's really not novel, but thanks for asking.
I mean, the most influential book I've ever read in my business career was The Goal, and that is a manufacturing process book.
The Goal?
The Goal. Yeah, and it's old. It was handed out in schools when I was in school. So
oh yeah.
But it talks through the whole manufacturing bottlenecks, first in, first out, last in, first out, like the benefits.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
But thinking through process like that from a really fundamental perspective helped set me up to take strategy down to tactical.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So just to make sure we didn't miss something, right? I know you've laid out some killer insights. Thank you for doing that. And I've led the conversation with just a barrage of my own questions, but so that I won't be remiss leaving the episode without asking you, what question did I not ask that I should have, or whatever extra insight you have to leave the audience with before we close it down?
Just on I'm really passionate about reporting to the board and how critical it is to really understand that process and nail it as a marketer, given where things are shifting. So like I said, I really want marketers to become visionary leaders. And that takes a lot of knowledge of how business owners think of things and aligning with those business owners. So what I will say is stop reporting on initiatives and start consistently reporting on just a few key metrics. Because when you report on initiatives, you're not intending to, but people are going to think you're hiding something if you change what you report on every time. And your initiatives should be driving the top line numbers you should be reporting on anyway. So marketers, call to action, stop reporting on initiatives, start reporting on things like bookings, pipeline, leads, engagement, in that order. Start with what they care about most, then go backwards.
Okay. I'm sure that would excite a number of people. And if they wanted to learn more, how do they reach you?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Camela Thompson, or the Revenue Marketing Report had lots of episodes to do with this. And Caliber Mind is currently running a free certification program on reporting to the board as a B2B CMO.
I spotted that. That looks promising. I'll have to check that out. Camela, thank you for joining me in this discussion. I feel much more comfortable about looking into 2023 with a sense of, I know what to do.
Yes, you do.
So thank you for laying that all out. I certainly hope to have another conversation with you in the not distant future.
I would enjoy that. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, right on.